Okay. Checking levels here. We're good. All that stuff. Welcome! I'm back. Took last week off for a little Halloween action with the fam, but here we are. Ready for another hacking session. We're going to be building another... We're continuing on with building a game in Haskell. Called, we're calling it LambdaTrek. It's kind of like a roguelike type of game inspired by Star Trek, based off of an older game called Super Trek, which is a variant of Star Trek, which is a game made about Star Trek. Yeah, it's coming along pretty nicely. I think last time we were on this, working on this, we were just getting the galaxy map type thing working. So if you don't know what the game looks like, I'm just going to show you that quickly. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Nice to see you. Feel free to jump in with any questions you may have, hot takes, whatever you like. Pretty open here with all of those sorts of things. So I'm just going to use my little stack build tool to run our program right now. It's called LambdaTrek. Super straightforward. We're using the wonderful brick library in Haskell to build this out. It's a terminal UI library. Very nice, very declarative. You can see, like, looks pretty sweet. Not a huge amount of effort spent on drawing the UI, which is cool. This is our like sector view. This is like our little spaceship here, this big S. The $sign is our space station. It's where we can refuel and recharge our supplies, get more torpedoes and such. This is an enemy ship here. This little sign here. This little star. Maybe we'll add some planets and stuff like that, but that's the general gist of it right now. The whole goal of the game is to defeat this kind of invading army of spaceships. And you got to do it in a certain number of turns. Right? You're limited with what resources you have. You give commands to your ship, like shields up, and moving next to, or close enough to, in range to fire on the ship. And you can use your phasers command, give us some energy, fire on that ship. Oh, we can't. We got our shields up. We got to lower our shields first. But we can use torpedoes too. We shoot one at 8-3. Yeah, there we go. Take out that ship. And then we can like shields down. We can dock. We can do a lot of stuff. So far. We've been working on this screen here, which is like going to be our map kind of screen. You just press F1, you're going to jump over this, F2 back to the sector. All right. And here is where you kind of you can use your long range scanners to find the sectors around you, what they have in them, maybe what they don't have as well. In order to plot your next move. And you can use your warp command here too to jump to the next sector and continue on the game there. So that's what they're in the middle of implementing. We have these little symbols here. They mean like different things depending on what you've scanned or what you haven't scanned. And we're going to be working on that for the most part. We want to be able to show which sector the ship is currently in. Right now, I think in the game state we should be up in this one here. And as we use long-range scanners, we should be able to reveal more information about these other surrounding sectors, which is what these symbols are here for. So they're supposed to tell us like how many enemy ships, is there a space station or not, yes or no, and like stars and things like that. Cool. So starting off, we have to switch this over to like all question marks. So like starting off, you don't know what it is in that sector because you haven't scanned it yet. Just got to use your scanner, or you can just warp in there and find out by just jumping there if you want. That kind of stuff. So all up to the player to figure out. We have this little nice handy dandy kind of dialogue system too, which is kind of fun, and all that. So let's jump right into showing in this tile where the current player ship is. I think that would be a good start. I'm going to jump over to my editor here, open up our project, and we'll get going on that. Boom. Right, quadrant tile rendering. I think this is on a branch right now. I think we can probably just merge this into main now and just start working on it. I think that some of the data structures are a little meh, but it's kind of going in the right direction, so let's do that. I'm going to go over to... I'm still calling it master. And... Oh, no, I'm not. I am calling it main. That's what I thought. Merge quadrant in. Yeah, we'll do that. That's good. Okay. So we're gonna go into source. Boom, LambdaTrek. Boom. Let's see here. Let's go to our UI code, quadrant display. We gotta render our quadrant tiles. Right. So our quadrant rendering, our tile building stuff, that's over in the simulation code. Thinking quadrant, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, build tiles, get tile, that sort of stuff. Okay. So quadrant tiles are our data structure for all these tiles. Quadrant tile is what we display to the user on that screen. I think we need a better data structure for this to do that, but we're going to do that in a little bit, where these should show up as like question marks until you've scanned them. However, we also need to have... Oh, it does. Has player ship. Okay, we need to fill in that data. I don't think we're filling that in yet. Yeah, we do has ships, and we are doing a... No, quadrant tile has player ship. Did I miss that? Has enemy ships, yeah. $. That's Starbase. We're not rendering that yet, though. Let's play should be, so it should be... Oh, wait, sorry, yeah. Rendering is just showing the underscore here. Yeah, so we want that to show up as an S. And I think when we're building the tile is where we're gonna work on here. Yeah, 2 quadrant tile from our get sector data. Yeah, we are. Yeah, there we are. There's our to-do. I totally missed it on the first pass there. Yeah, so we have to fill this in with something that comes in from the sector data, or like we pass in. I don't think the sector data has the player ship in it. I think that's a top level game state thing, which is over. Yeah. Sector ship. Yeah, that's in game state ship. So in order to get that, we have to pass it in as an argument here. Or 2 quadrant tiles should just take the whole game state. What do we call 2 quadrant tile? And build tiles. Build tiles gives the whole quadrant, so it doesn't have access to the game state either. And build tiles is called outside of us here. Here. So we could pass that, we could thread that information through to the call to build tiles. Give me a ship and a quadrant, and I'll give you the tiles. Or we can pass in the whole game state, and I will give you back everything you need. I think that would probably be cleaner here. Like this. That's good. Not going to type check for the moment, and that's fine. We'll fix that. I think maybe we were just a little too specific there, because we got to pull out data from other places in order to render the tiles. So that's That's fine. Let's go back over to the quadrant. So this will take a game state now instead of just a quadrant. And we could just pull out the parts we need using record wildcards, which we have enabled in the module. We just don't have game state. Ooh, import cycles possibly happening here. Maybe not. Import LambdaTrek state. Actually, maybe not. That would be nice. Okay, I'm gonna get the builder fired up on our tests here. Stack test fast with our file watcher. Super handy dandy thing to use. Boom. Okay, and that'll just tell us if we're like not compiling, which seems like that might be a thing. And yes, okay. Module imports form a cycle. So our module state imports quadrant. Quadrant's importing state. Nerds. So we need to break the cycle somehow. Since we're referencing game state here, I say we move this up to game state. Or adjacent to. I like keeping build tiles in the module next to the things that it works with. The other way that we can't really break the cycle by creating an intermediary module that kind of is the parent of both. That wouldn't make sense. Yeah, and game state needs to be able to import quadrant. The other thing, yeah. The other thing we could just make them parameters. Make it like quadrant and ship, and then you give me those parts of the game state, and I'll build this out instead of you giving me all of the game state, which I'm really not going to be using a lot here. I'm just using these two parts anyway. Let's go that route. That way I don't have to deal with the cycle. Okay. Back over to the UI. Let's just go record wildcards here. Game state ship and game state quadrant. Okay, then that should just be an unused variable. Then we don't need to import state here anymore and get rid of that. Fix the cycle. Break the cycle. Let's do it. Okay, ship isn't a scope, but it's a sibling module, so that should be fine. And we'll do that here. Shit. Okay, so then we just get the warning that we haven't used ship, and that's fine. Okay, so we just have to thread that through to 2 quadrant tile so that we use it. 2 quadrant tile needs to be updated to take that parameter. So we change its type here, we add the parameter here. So now this leads me to the Column. Hey, Daeladris. You elven friend. How are you? Yeah, so then that leads me to the conundrum here that the ship doesn't know which sector it's in on the quadrant map, does it? Game state. All right, the coordinates the ship knows about are its own coordinates within the sector. So I think this is probably where maybe we need to change some ways I'm thinking about this game state and like how to track where the ship is and what it's doing. So if we go to simulation, we look at the ship stuff. Right, position X, position Y. That's within a sector. So yeah, we could totally simulate Riker. But we don't. We have like just generic red shirts flying our ship right now, I think. You could be any captain you want. You just roleplay it. It's fine. The only in-game effect is your enjoyment. So like we have to like track which sector the ship is in currently. And we could just add that data to the ship object here, like this ship record, and just give it like, I don't know, ship quadrant X and Y, whatever the quadrant is represented as. Maybe it's an integer, I don't know. I think it is. I'm the one writing the game and I don't even know. But yeah, it'd be like, we could do this. That would be okay. I think that makes sense. Oh, yeah. Phasers. Is phasers trademarked? Now I'm curious and I must know. This is supposed to be LambdaTrek, our kind of like offshoot bargain basement DVD alternate universe copy of bootleg of Star Trek. Wiker. Phaser is a trademark of CBS Studios. Filed in 1992. It took them a while to file that one. RIP. Okay. Well, yeah, we might have to change that in our game. Maybe. Hopefully CBS won't know it's us. We'll call them Mazers. Or Wazers. Let's keep the W thing going. Laser would be okay too. I don't think that one's trademarked. Gazers. Stare at you intently until you blow up. Like a sicko in space. Do I like putting the quadrant data here? We already tracked the ship position here. Why not the quadrant? Why not the quadrant? What? Or no? I don't know if we should put in the quadrant data. So the other place we could maybe think about putting the stuff and all this data, spreading it around a little bit, is in the quadrant. So we look at the quadrant, and it contains like everything about the sector. Stars, the ships, and the stations. Right? All that data. We could also throw in the position of the ship. Could be an index in there. Alright, that'd be like the XY of like where it is. That's a possibility too. But then we gotta, yeah, I kind of want to keep all the ship-related data next into the ship definition. So yeah, let's do that. And if it sucks, it sucks, and we'll backtrack. It'll be fine. Code, you can always change code and change your mind about stuff whenever you want. It's not really written in stone like some people clutch their pearls about. And, naming things is totally hard. It is hard, but as is evidenced by my poor names and like phasers. Quadrant X, quadrant Y. Let's just go with that. Let's go with it. Let's make the decision. Let's move on. We have decided. You are welcome to help, Deladris. Deladris? Am I saying that right? I don't even know. I don't speak Elven, okay? Gajski? Alright then. 2-quadrant tile. Yeah, now we can pass in the ship here. It'll have the ship quadrant X, quadrant Y. And now we know that it's in this quadrant, but when we're going 2-quadrant tile, and we have to know if the ship is in this quadrant. Or in this sector, sorry. Now we need to tie the ship to the sector. So now we're getting like kind of dependency sort of issues here. So independent, this is why like types are kind of important and useful and neat little things. Like this type here really could be like any value of ship in any sector. And they're not necessarily related to one another. Like, we don't know anything about the ship in relation to the sector. Is it in this sector? Maybe. It could be. So we need a way to put that data together. Smush them together. Some way. And the Delta Quadrant. Yeah, exactly. Gamma Quadrant. Delta Quadrant. Alpha Beta. Zulu 19er. I don't know. But we have to put that ship with the sector in order to get the tile. Because we want to know, in order to generate the quadrant tile, is the ship here? Oh. Maybe we don't need to tie it to the sector. What am I going on about? I'm ranting here. When we build the tiles, okay, we're mapping over the quadrant coordinates in the map and passing in the quadrant to this function here, quadrant coordinate, to get the sector from that quadrant. And then that goes into the tile making function. We just need to know, is the ship in that quadrant or not. And if we have the ship data here, we know that. Because the quadrant coordinates we pass in, if they're the same as the ship, then it's true. Otherwise, it's false. So, is ship in quadrant? Oh, we have to do it in the map. Yeah, we have to do it in the map here. Yeah, so get sector would probably tie that together nicely with a little bow. Otherwise, we can expand this out back to a lambda here for a sec. Quadrant coordinate. Just to explain, like, what's going on here. What I'm thinking. Right, so now this is in scope here. And, we actually have to, like, pass in the quadrant coordinate here. Okay, so we're applying. Yeah. I know. It's this is the function here. Get sector. Pass that result into quadrantile. But this parameter here, ship. All right, if we get the coordinate, the thing of the ship is equal to the quadrant coordinate here. All right, ignoring all the type errors and stuff. We just have to pull out the ship quadrant coordinate. And if that's equal to the quadrant coordinate, then it's true. Otherwise, it's false. So we can go up to quadrantile, turn this into a Boolean, and just call it is ship present. And plop her there. A little bit of wishful thinking is sometimes helpful. Especially if you can make those wishes come true. So you gotta be careful with it and know your limits. Okay, so as long as we can implement is ship quadrant, which I think we should be able to do, let's just do it right here temporarily, just to see if it'll work. Right, which is just going to pull out different parts of the ship stuff, and we just need to return a tuple for the comparison of int. There's only really one definition of this. And that's going to, oops, and that's the wrong syntax. It looks, the type signature looks like this. Definition looks like this. With ship quadrant X. Let's put it in some of those fancy parentheses. Ship quadrant Y. Okay. Now that all type checks, but it looks kind of ugly. But that's, you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. Can we make it nicer? Maybe. But that's the gist of it, right? So if we compare that coordinate there, then we know that the ship is in that coordinate where we're mapping over all of the coordinates. Maybe with a little clever reorganization, we can get rid of this lambda if we need to. We need to construct a sector. So the only way we could really do it is we modify get sector to pull that data down together. Otherwise, we got to leave the lambda in. Maybe somebody smarter than me can do it, but let's not be too fancy. We can put it into a where clause, though. I'm going to pull this whole term. I'm going to call the function down to quadrantile. Quadrantile data. Okay, what is get quadrantile data? I'll just put it here. That's what it is. We can get rid of the lambda by just moving that parameter over to the left of the equal sign here. Pull us a little more over to the left. It's like, it's okay. Yeah, and I'll just stack it this way. Okay, I think ship quadrant, that's pretty good. That's type checking, at least, hopefully. I think everything else is building, right? No? Maybe so. Do I think Tuvix was murdered? Wait, Tuvix. I don't know. Is that one of the newer ones? I haven't watched them. Which kind of sucks. But we live in the age of streaming services, and I can't subscribe to them all. Let's see. Match type in. I'm messing something up there. Oh, Voyager. When Neelix and Tuvok merged. No? Like, was he ever really alive? I'm not sure. I don't know. No, I don't think so. Yeah. No, I don't think so. He was a new being. That's weird. Yeah, I don't think so. But like I'm coming from a one being, one body kind of perspective. That's the only perspective I know that exists. So that's kind of a weird thing to think about. Maybe Tvix would have answers for me that we could educate us, or other creatures that live this way. Maybe it isn't. Maybe they can separate. If they can merge, they can separate at will. Maybe that's a normal thing, and the intermediate being created by the merging is fine with separating too. So yeah, maybe not. I'm sorry, I'm not even compiling it, but I just want to add this type signature back in. Yeah, I mean, well, Star Trek is super great. I've been rewatching The Next Generation recently. For a few months now. I picked up a copy of the 4K ultra high definition remasters or whatever on Blu-rays, and I've been watching them again, and like the first couple of seasons were pretty bad, and that's largely because of like shenanigans. Like whoever the executives were greenlighting some of those early episodes were not in the right minds at the time. I'm not even going to make excuses like, oh, it was the 80s and people got away with stuff. No, it was still bad. And they should have known better. But the later seasons, like midway through season 3 and onward, I think are really awesome. What's my favorite episode of TNG? Ooh. Dang. I have so many. I would say Darmok is probably up there. Top 5 for sure. Measure of Man is excellent. Sins of the Father, pretty high. The Drumhead was really good. I don't know if it was top 10. It's probably close to top 10, maybe top 5. The reason why I really like that one is because like it really put Picard, like it put two actors who were just amazing against each other, in a very tense situation, and they did wonderfully. Yeah, Measure of Man is really excellent too. So yeah, I gotta... We want this type for the function, not int. That's good. Thank you, GHC, for telling me what that should be. Okay, but we're still not good here because I messed something up. Yes, the game state ship stuff. So all that stuff's gonna have to be fixed again. Yeah. And I like... you can really tell when they started doing that in season 4 and onward, when they started letting some of the cast members direct some of the episodes, and they really took some creative directions with it, and they stopped letting the executive producers do too many of them. But even though some of the actors came on later on as executive directors, but still, like, that was a good shift. Gosh, what was the other one with the kid who wanted to be like Data because he experienced trauma? Like, I don't know if that's like top 5 episode all time, but that one resonates with me personally a little bit because, like, I remember seeing that when I was a kid and just identifying with that 100%. Yeah, that's gonna be my next venture. I did catch the first couple of seasons of Picard at a friend's house, but I didn't get the season 3, so. Yeah, Hero Worship, yeah. Yeah, I remember being like, yeah, it's mid, but I'll watch it because I can't not. I did. I know. I did a lot, even up until like my mid-20s, I would say, is when I started getting socially able to, yeah, be more human. It took me a while, so yeah. Thanks for calling me out on stream in front of the world. All like 2 or 3 people that are watching. And maybe the people on YouTube who watch, because hi, hello. Okay, yeah. So, just the test code is broken because I'm silly. And changed the state of the ship, which changes all the tests, because I still haven't fixed the test code to be more flexible. So everywhere I see ship, I gotta change. Maybe if I can just change ship 8-1, this could be my pattern. Yeah, it probably doesn't fix all of them, but hopefully it'll fix most of them. Yeah, just one left. 48. Oh no, that fixed all the tests. Now it's just a state code. You say Janeway was right. It was murder, but it was right. It was the right thing to do. Yeah. I guess if you think, if there was... Well, here's the thing, like, that new being came into play, were Neelix and Tuvok gone? Were they murdered? Not really, because it could separate again and they could come back. Right? So, preventing them from living their life as individuals. Yeah, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Prime Directive, don't mess with it as well. It's a new being. But those are the things kept in life, you know? You're gonna make a decision, you gotta just make one. It's not always gonna be the right one. And some people might not like you for it, but you gotta do what you gotta do with the information you have at the time, you know? Make a call. And like in the Drumhead, try and be impartial. Don't let your personal feelings cloud your judgment. It could get you in trouble. Okay, so state is the module here on 48 where you just have to like... Ooh! Sorry, I did an ooh there. Because I think I shot myself in the foot a while ago. This data here, ship state sector. I have a feeling that is the current sector of the ship. And I just put this all extra data in the wrong place. Yeah, so that's kind of fun. So we do kind of put ship data. This is incorrectly named, I think. That's like current sector. So this is why naming is kind of important. If you name things weirdly, you can forget stuff, and then you come back and read it, and you're like, oh, what's that? So yeah, let's backtrack a little bit on this. Yeah, I'll give you an update on that sometime. Thanks for popping by. This was fun. Feel free to hang around and just listen to the tunes or whatever, but I understand if you gotta go. Gotta dip. I'm making Star Trek, well, not Star Trek, I'm making LambdaTrek, the video game. Old school version, though, where you're hunting down Klingons. Not Klingons, Wingons. Yeah, Wingons. Always winging it. We can't have that in our galaxy. I'll keep an eye out for the CBS lawyers, yeah. If they pop up on stream, you know what to do, mods. You know what to do. Okay, so we don't need to actually put the ship position data, the quadrant position data, whatever, in the ship data, because it's already in the game state. So build tiles here will just be the coordinate. Yeah, I'll call it quadrant, current quadrant. Oh, current sector. And then this can just be current sector. And then we don't need this function. We have an import warning here. We don't need to import ship anymore, so we can pull that out. Beautiful. State should be good now. And in UI, we just have to do game state sector. We need record wildcards here. Okay, and then we just a couple more errors to fix up. Barrel. Bring this back in scope here. It's probably just our tests need to be reverted. And then everything should compile again. I think it'll go green. It does. Hooray. So now we can just test out our game. Okay, cool. So let's restart here. Bang, bang. Go to our map screen. There we go. So now we got our S here. Underscore if otherwise. I'm going to turn that just into a space. Get rid of it. So you just see the S when you know that's the ship, that's the sector you're in. And then I think that's good. We'll commit that and we'll move on. Bang. Right on. Okay, go to map. Boom. S. Great. Cool. All right. All right, let's commit that. This should be good. Bam, bam, bam. So we add player ship to quadrant tile rendering. Quadrant tile. Boom, boom. Okay, that's good. So let's look at the rest of our game here and how things are going on the map. So the next part is scanners. Let's get scanning going. So the idea with long-range scanning in this game is that we shouldn't know anything about this until we scan it. Right. Which this looks okay. Like these are all, like we know the ships because we're in the sector. We know the ships are here. That there's a space station here. That's good. For the enemy ships here, I think we're doing the right thing here. We're showing question marks. We don't know. We should just hide the space stations. Oh, unless these all have space stations. But we should still hide them because we haven't scanned them yet. Okay. And we should hide this until it's scanned, basically. This is kind of the next to-do item. Okay, so it's not enough. It's enough to know, like, to render it, like, when you scanned it, that these things are true. Does it have the player ship? Does it have enemy ships? Does it have a starbase? But if the answer is no, right? That's what the question mark represents at the moment. No, it doesn't have enemy ships. I guess all of the ones that if we've implemented it, starbases, which I think we have, if it has a starbase, then all of the quadrants have starbases currently, and they're all rendering as, like, yes, has a starbase. So, like, has it been scanned or not is the next part that we need to add here. We could add this as a type around the quadrant tile. Right, that would represent, like, the scan state. Has it been scanned or not? Yes or no, and whether it has this data or not. So when we build these quadrant tiles, it feels like getting the scan state in there means we'd have to store that scan state in the sector data somehow, which doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So I almost want to have a way to keep that concept separate. If it's been scanned, show the data, the tile. If it hasn't been scanned, show a different tile, like the unscanned tile. I think that might be a good approach. And then that might also hook into, like, if we are in the current quadrant, or if we're in that sector, then it's automatically scanned as well. So that kind of does tie a little bit our view of this into how we build the quadrant tile a little bit. Maybe that's kind of the responsibility of build tiles. Build tiles is enough information to know what current sector we're currently in, or what quadrant we're currently in. Current sector, whatever. The whole quadrant, so the rest of it. I think the only thing that we need to know in order to do that here would be when we're looking in the quadrant map to have a flag in the quadrant map of like, has this been scanned or not? So that seems like a nice place to put that, actually. Right here. Scan state. Basically, has this coordinate been scanned before? Then this is just literally true or false. All right, and now quadrant has enough data here with that flag, I think. When we go into build tiles, when we map over get quadrant tile data here, we can look in the quadrant data for that coordinate, if it's true or not. If it is, we can render a default quadrant tile. So let's define that empty quadrant tile or that unrendered quadrant tile. What would that even look like? We can make it a some type of records, which usually is a bad pattern in Haskell to get into. Something like this. Generally considered bad form, because if you had another case with something, quadrant something, that has records, you have to be very careful to disambiguate the names of the different record functions here, because these are functions. And the reason why this is important is because it's totally fine to have quadrant tile has player ship as a record field in this constructor, quadrant something. That's perfectly legal Haskell. But depending on which branch, like which value was used to construct this quadrant tile, this function is going to have a hard time figuring out which one it belongs. It doesn't know that it belongs to this sum constructor, for example. This quadrant tile has player ship. So kind of a wart, something to watch out for. In this case, it's not going to be a problem because we're not going to have another, at least as far as I'm aware at the moment. Present me is saying we're not going to have another tile constructor in here. Another thing we could do is so some constructors join things together. We can keep them separate. We can call this scanned. Or we can call it quadrant tile data. And we can make a new type. Quadrant tile data or unscanned. We derive the usual classes for it as well. So we're gonna get a bunch of type errors because like we just changed definitions and things and blah blah blah. It's gonna get really annoyed with us. This is pretty good, I think. All right, quadrant tile data is separated out, so it should be pretty straightforward to update our functions to do quadrant tile data instead of quadrant tile. And then our rendering, we can update to take quadrant tile and just pull out the appropriate data, whether when we pattern match on it, if it's scanned or non-scanned. And I think we should be able to construct scanned or unscanned with a build tile. So when we go to 2 quadrant tile, if this is true, then we know which constructor to use. We used scanned constructor. We have to add another condition when we go to get quadrant tile data. Has it been scanned before? So we have to look in the quadrant map for that. So I think that we should be okay here to go ahead with this. I think this is a pretty good approach to do. Okay, so 2 quadrant tile. Has the bool is a ship present, but also needs to know has it been scanned before. Okay. Boolean blindness is kind of coming in a little bit here, sneaking in. Hopefully we can keep it fairly local. If we were sharing this code outside this module, I might break away from bools here and use types. Instead, we could, even in this code, but it's not too bad. So we know if has been scanned is true, then we want this to be quadrant tile with quadrant tile, or scanned with quadrant tile data. Otherwise, unscanned. Just return unscanned. And this is either is ship present, sorry, or has been scanned. So one of those conditions are true, then we say it's scanned. Otherwise, it's unscanned. We have to be careful with this model, though, so that when we move, that we maintain this invariant, that if we're in the quadrant, that it sets the flag has been scanned. Which might even actually remove one bool from us here. If we get rid of the ship is present check, and we just have a way of saying, like, whenever, like, whatever the current ship thing is, the current ship sector position is, just set that flag to true in the quadrant map. We can get rid of the bool here, and then we only have to check has been scanned. That might be pretty nice. So let's do that. This might slightly break the game map a little bit for a little while, for a second, till we get to doing that. So we'll have to try and remember to do that before we're done here. Okay. So then, render quadrant data. Right, quadrant tile is no longer just a record anymore, so this isn't going to quite work when we go to render it. We now have 2 different cases. We have scanned quadrant data, quadrant tile data. I think we can move that back, actually. Or we have unscanned. So the unscanned case, we should basically just have this box sort of thing. Just with this middle part changed. Ooh, that's gonna be tricky. Maybe we shouldn't do that here. Maybe that's a sign. Maybe render tile should take care of that. Except, well, no, I can't. I'm gonna work on the wrong thing here anyway. We should be up here. This should be quadrantile data, and this should be quadrantile data. What's the problem with this? Oh, I didn't change the constructor. Is that it? Yeah. Could I just... Oh, I just... Yeah, I just... mistype. Yep. Okay, that doesn't need to change. Okay, so this needs to go away because we don't need it. Or we're not going to. So is ship present? Oh, we still need a... Yeah, sorry, we still do need to pass that in. But we only need the has been scanned for the guard. Okay, well, whatever. Yeah, suck. Okay, there we go. Like that. It's gonna be false most of the time. That's okay. Okie dokie. So yeah, here in render tile now, we have a problem, right? So we go to render the tile, render quadrant data. You know, we have a case here. For these t's, a particular t could be one or the other. Yeah, okay, so it does have to pattern match here, jeez. Or... yeah, it has to. Okay, yeah. We do have to do it. Lambda case. We want scanned quadrantile data. Skadoosh. Manoosh. Where can stay there. Get rid of this. Gone. Okay. Unscanned. We just have to produce one row, right? Like one thing here. So, in the unscanned case, we could just, I think we could just have we just have a const value here of it, really. I think we said it's like, it's however long this is. Let's copy that. Pop it here. Put some quotes around it. 3, 4, 5, yeah. 1, 2, 3. We'll make that a space. We just need to enable lambda. Yeah. Lambda case. Okay. So, I think it's starting to come together a little bit. There we go. Where's the next one? Okay, so these aren't in scope at this level. So maybe I do have to move them up. Can I move them here? That touches them here. And that's because this should be back to quadrantile. Okay, next type error. Boom, 2 quadrantile. Okay, so 2 quadrantile now. It was changed. Takes 2 booleans, is ship present and has been scanned. Is ship present hasn't changed. We just need has been scanned. Something. That just needs to be a boolean. Right, we can hard code it for now to true. Just need to compile again. And implement that in a moment. Just want to make sure this is all gonna kind of sort of pan out. I feel like it was a bit of a big baby step. A big boy step. Let's see. Next type error. Up here. So initializing the quadrant. Okay, yes, we have a new map here. Okay, so this is where one place where we can start. We got to initialize the quadrant data. So this initial map of the coordinates for the quadrant scan state. We just need to take the current ship, whatever key that is, we want to initialize the quadrant with, as the that should be like the current ship position. And then we just set that to true, whatever that is on the map. So we can create that with a singleton map. I think it's singleton. M.singleton. Okay. And I can give that starting inner quadrant starting coordinate. And true. That's enough to initialize it. I think I'm going to make that a record now. And just explicitly write out the field names. And about quadrant stars. Quadrant enemy ships. Quadrant stations. Hey, Soulfoam, how's it going? First time chatter, welcome. Nice to see you around here. Do you have any visible progress you're able to show? Yeah, I totally do. I'm just getting to the point where it's gonna start compiling again. And that's usually when I take a break to test things out and see how they're going. Because I like to move in very, very small steps. I just kind of accidentally took a slightly bigger step than I usually do. But we're almost there. We're almost there. Okay, so this module compiles again. What do I got left here? Init quadrant. Yeah, I call that in one place when I'm setting up the game state. That's over in the state module. Boom. Init quadrant. So it's this value here that we need to initialize it with. And we need a way to make sure that they get updated in lockstep so that when you change this, it updates that map as well in the quadrant. Which we'll have to do in another pass. I just want to get this back to compiling in green again so we can see how the game's going. Okay, some test code that needs to be updated as well. Let's see, this is on 289. It's all around here. Boom, here. Okay, init quadrant. Oh, this is where the test is explicitly constructing a quadrant state to test against. We could probably just do, I don't think it really matters for this test, we can just do, I mount it to a map, did I mount it to map or M again? We could just do empty, I think is the function. It's not import m.empty. Yeah, okay, I didn't import it as map. My bad. So my in-editor stuff doesn't work with the test module for some reason. And one more place where we did this, game state. No, same spot. What did I break? No, just here. Okay, I did. Yeah, didn't quite fix it. Oh, yeah, because I was explicitly naming these. Oh, I know it. My bad. This is a function, so I can just give it. Gah. Okay, we're super close. What did I do now? Syntax error. What did I do? Init quadrant's the function, right? Bang, bang. Okay, I don't care if test code is that ugly. Like, whatever, who cares? Okay, compiling, good. Let's go. Okay, so we're building a Star Trek inspired roguelike called LambdaTrek. We're just chatting about making sure the CBS lawyers don't hunt us down, so there you go. It's called LambdaTrek. Although, we're using some trademarked names in here, but it's not our fault. We'll fix it. We're not released yet, so yeah, that's fine. Anyway, the idea is that you're piloting a spaceship of some kind and in a sector, a quadrant of space, and these invading ships have come in, and you gotta destroy them all before you run out of turns. Otherwise, they win. Pretty simple premise. It kind of plays a little bit like a roguelike. It's a variation of an much older game called like Super Trek or Star Trek, which were all very, very similar to this. You have your info panel on the right here. This is like the sector view right now in the map. You can input your commands where you can like move to different spots on the map. You have a little combat, you have a little dialogue section here, so your different people on the bridge, officers, I don't think that's trademarked. they can tell you what's going on. So like us moving, it's just like a rogue kind of game. Like you move, enemies move, you move, enemies move. So they hit us took a little damage. You know, we got our shields down and all that sort of stuff. We're working right now on some new features on here. This is the, so I'm just flicking a key here, the F1 key, and it flicks over to this sort of quadrant map or galaxy map. And we're working on rendering out these tiles. So this is like a little part of the game where you can use your long-range scanners to scan other sectors in the quadrant to see if they have enemy ships or star bases and stuff to dock at, and where your current ship is in the whole grand scheme of things. And then you can like jump over to those sectors, which we haven't implemented those commands yet, but we got most of like the basic combat stuff kind of going, and that's what we're working on right now, the map screen stuff. Well, thank you. Yes, it's I used to play this game a lot when I was younger, and I don't know, kind of got inspired as a project for the stream to work on. Well, that's where we are now. So we just did rendering and changed it so that we have scanned and unscanned states for these different tiles. And what we need to now fix up is the build tile stuff so that these build up as unscanned, because we haven't scanned them yet. The only one that should be showing up scanned is this one with these symbols here. The rest of these should just be question marks all around. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Right. So we go over the quadrant. Ba-boom, ba-boom. So we initialize the quadrant. We change the quadrant tile data here. And our 2-quadrant tile function now checks has been scanned otherwise. Okay, and these are always showing as scanned at the moment. Because we're hard coding true. We set that to false. We should see it change. There we go, that's better. And the only thing is, I was kind of expecting this one to be scanned. That should be in our scanned map when we initialize the map. Oh, but we're hard coding them all to false. That's why. They're all showing false. That's totally fine. Okay, so our next step then is to get this to come from the map. And what I think we should do is have a get with default false. So when we do our scan function, we can just do the scan thing, and that can just insert a bunch of keys into the map of the quadrant of the coordinates it's scanned, and then we just pass them along through. But if we haven't scanned them yet, it doesn't matter. We don't have to go initialize the whole map with this, all the scan state, basically. Default should be just false because you haven't scanned it. That's the default. I think that kind of makes sense. Also, Soulfoam and others who are maybe just tuning in for the first time, totally fine with backseat programming. So if you see something I don't see, or you're like as you're watching the stream, feel free to chime in. You never know what will take things in a good direction. And all that sort of stuff. And if you have questions too, pop in with those. Totally fine. Happy to take diversions to answer questions and that sort of stuff. Okay, so we just need to fill this in with actual things. So we're going to get that from the quadratile map with default. I think data.map has something to it, or it's not terribly hard to do if it doesn't have a function already for this. Yeah, so this is our module maps, And we're going to index into it. Look up. Yeah, so it returns a maybe A if it finds it. And in this case, we could just translate it over to truer. The value or nothing can also mean false. It also has find with default. That's probably what we actually want, to be a little bit more specific. Find with default. A is going to be Booleans, right, in our map. So then we can give an A here. We can give that as our hard-coded false. The key will be the coordinate we need to look at. Map will be the map in the quadrant data. So that should be pretty chill, pretty easy to put in there. Okay, so I'm going to put a hole there. Where do I want to put this code now? Maybe we should make this a we should let bind that in. Quadrant sector has been scanned. Or sector scan state. Sector scanned. I like to use predicative-ish names like is, has for Booleans, just so that when I'm reading the code, it kind of like stays with me, I guess. What's the problem with this, y'all? Oh, this needs an equal sign or something. Okay, so what can we put that hole? What can we put in there? Well, all we have in scope actually is just this int. Let's see. So we have that's the quadrant coordinate. Oh, we're getting quadrant from the outer scope here. So, we still have that in scope here. We could do something with it and the coordinate. This is just going to be the map lookup here. Yeah. M dot find with default. False, and key is going to be quadrant coordinate. And then we just need the right map to look into on the quadrant. Quadrant. I don't have the lens for it yet in scope. That's fine. I'm okay using the record thing. Yeah, scan state. That's what I called it. Okay, now when we run this, it should show the tile data for the tile we're currently in, because that one's scanned. Well, the rest of them should show up as question marks. Yes. Okay. Quadrant map progress. Yay! So good. Okay, so let's check that in. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Pretty good. Yep, yep. Okay. Add scan state. to quadrant map. Okay. Oh man, we are running low on time for the stream tonight, but let's just go a little bit further and see what we can do. Okay, so the next little step we need to take here, I think the next thing we actually need to do is implement our scan command. Well, the other thing I want to be able to do, actually a utility thing we should probably work on before we get too far ahead of ourselves, is that that kind of like invariant in our program that we want at the moment. What I mean is when the ship moves to, which we haven't really implemented yet, but maybe we just note it for now so we can do the scan command. But we want to make sure that when we update the game state and we move the ship to a new quadrant or a new sector in the quadrant, that this sector coordinate here is automatically inserted as true into this map here. Right? It automatically scans the thing. We might even be able to implement that as scan and just call it when we move the ship into warp, actually. So let's try implementing scan. Let's do that, yeah. Yeah. Because we're going to need to implement scanning anyway, this function scan, for long-range scanners. So let's do it. Yeah, that seems like a good step. Okay. So in order to do that, let's call it scan quadrant. All right, that's going to take a coordinate to scan, a quadrant, and return a new instance of that quadrant. Okay. And so calling this will literally just set the scanned flag to true. All right, and then that'll automatically populate all of the data for the tile to render it in the map and all that stuff. We've already got that kind of implemented, so that's all we have to do. We could pull this out with a record wildcard, although this quadrant appears, this same type of, yeah, no, we can't. Breaking my record wildcards rule here. Yeah, we're gonna have to use this like this. So if you don't know, record wildcards are a handy little tool. In Haskell, it's a language extension. You could tell a module has implemented it when they have this little pragma at the top of the file, or if they've like defined it in their build tool settings, whatever. So it's called record wildcards. And if you haven't seen it before, all it lets you do is kind of like destructure these records and the different fields in them to bring all the fields as values in scope rather than functions. And that can be useful. But what I've found in using record wildcards is it can be really annoying when you have a record that you're destructuring on the left side of an arrow and you also return a record of that same type on the right-hand side of the arrow. So my rule is if you see like a record on the left side of an arrow that you're also returning on the far right, don't use record wildcards. Use something else, because the name clashes between the values and the functions can get super annoying. So to avoid that nuisance, I just that's kind of the rule I'm going with for now. Seems to be working for me so far. So just spreading the love and the knowledge there. Okay, so scan quadrant. We are going to get the scan map, scan state. Quadrant scan state of the quadrant. Okay, and then we need to return a quadrant with such that quadrant scan state equals something. Something to do with the scan state and the coordinate. What's that going to be? That's just going to be map update, I think. Alter update. We don't even need update. We just need set. Alter, update, adjust. Yeah, this adjust should work. It's just const true. Const true will be our function, and k. Okay, so it just sets the scan state for that tile, and that's good. So now, yeah, I think we've got enough time. We can actually go ahead and start implementing our scan command. It doesn't. We've done this a few times now. I'm pretty good at adding these. Doesn't take a whole lot. So let's go to command. So these are the different game commands that are available. We're going to go long range scan. Long range scan takes a parameter. That's going to be the coordinate, coordinate of the sector you want to scan. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of places where we need to handle this now. So the turn cost of long-range scan. Should probably just be 1. I think when we go to implement jumping or warping, whatever you want to call it, we're going to have to change this up a little bit and make that a function, because it's going to be variable. It's going to depend on a few things, your warp factor, or speed factor, jump factor, whatever you want to call it. Your lambda factor, and stuff like that. So, food for thought. Okay, so long range scan, turn cost of 1. I think everything is compiling now. So that should be good. Okay, and so the next part is implementing the parser for it. That's under command parse. And we'll just go add it here. Parse long range scan. Gonna be a read p. And what is that going to return? Blah, 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 blah. Nothing. No, it's going to return our command. Either command parse error or a command. That's going to be long range scan command. Okay, so most commands in the game start, well, when we parse them, we normalize it all to uppercase and just parse with that. I'm going to create it as an abbreviation because I want the user to have to type in that. So like we do, I don't know why we abbreviated move, but we did. And we didn't do it for torpedo, but we should. Long range scan, LRS. First match on that string. Skip some spaces. Give the X coordinate. That's going to be a digit. Skip some more spaces. Give me a Y coordinate. Also going to be a digit. And then... This is actually super sweet. I have a parse coordinate function here. So I'm just going to use that. Parse coordinate. Sweet. So we got the coordinate. And now we can return our long range scan. Pure right. Right is might. Maybe. I'm not sure. Long range scan. Forward. Think. How did we implement that? Yeah, that's a tuple, so that should just work. If I could type it right. Okay. What did I... Oops, I meant to use the string function there. Okay, so that should be good. And then we can add it to the parse command parser. Boom. Now part of our game parser. Now we need to handle it. So we go over to simulation. Handle command. Long range scan. We get coordinate. And we'll add it down here. What do I do? Damage shift. Nope, okay. We'll handle it again. Handle long range scan. That's a state. Game state. Command result. Okay. So, this is where we can handle it. Now, we're not doing any validation on if this is a valid coordinate or not. I'm going to add that in a minute. And I'm probably going to add it to the parser because I really enjoy when where parsers do validation, basically. Because then the rest of my code doesn't have to check, is this a valid coordinate to use in a long-range scan command? No. If it parsed, it is. No doubts about it. Don't have to second-guess yourself. Don't have to have a bunch of if conditions and checks all over your code. You can just assume the long-range scan command, if you've got one, it's a valid one. So we're just going to ignore that here. We're just going to do pure nothing, not performed. Pure not performed? I can't remember what I called the negative case there. It's not performed. Denied. There we go. So it's just going to do nothing. That's fine for now. Okay, so I think that's everything. Then we can run the game again. It should just go. LRS 2, 3. Okay. So that parses and everything. I just want to now add the validation to the parser, and then we can call it good to go. So coordinates, parse coordinate, will just give us a tuple of int to int. Doesn't check anything. We can still do some validation here, though. So we know from our galaxy map, it's going to be a fixed size. It's going to be, our coordinates should be 0, 0, right? 0 to, 1, 2, 3, and 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So minimum 0, maximum 3. If it's outside that range, no bueno. Or any of those values in the coordinate. So I'm going to pull them out. Maybe just as x and y like this. And if guard, maybe guard. Is guard the function I want? I think. No, that's not going to be right. Not the right type. Let's put it in coordinate. Maybe I write it like this. It doesn't have to be pretty, you know? Such that x is greater or equal to 0 and x is less than or equal to 3 and y is greater than or equal to 0 and y is less than or equal to 3. This is where we want to return pure right. And in every other case, we want left of some error. I don't think I have a command error for that, so let's do that. Where do I find command parse error? There we are. Invalid long range command scan. Coordinate values must be greater than or equal to 0 and less than 4. Less than or equal to 3. Or just give it explicitly. It's a small enough range. And then we just have to render that one. And we'll just do message. Okay. This is not really pulling its weight. Mainly because I'm just returning the text in the parser of the error message I want to display. I guess when I wrote this, I probably was thinking that like maybe I would return more structured data in these and then render it here. But it doesn't seem to be the case. Either way, that's implemented now, so that should just work. So we do LRS, and we do like 2020. That kind of fits into our screen pretty well. Yep, the flow still works there. That's good. What if we do LRS 202? That should be fine. Okay. So that's good for parsing validation, but there's another kind of validation. Like we might want to restrict how far away you can scan with a long-range scanner, depending on where you are on the map. Like you can only scan adjacent sectors, and you can't really do that from the parser. Right? You'd have to pass in the whole game state to the parser in order for the parser to validate that. It's fine to do that kind of validation in a different part of your program. That's okay. The kind of validation I'm talking about is just like, I don't want to have to test if the long-range scan command I have is a valid long-range scanned command. Like, are these values proper values all over the place? Because if you don't test that at the parser, then you have to test it everywhere. And it's just annoying to read that code. So me as a reviewer reviewing that code, I hate it. Sometimes it's super necessary, but like it's just a little pet peeve of mine where I'm just like, ah. If you just validate it at the parse, you don't have to check this all over the place. So, I mean, this code's not like the prettiest, but there you go. It's a parser. You write it once, you're pretty much done with it. And not too hard to see what's going on there. So I'm going to commit that. Add long-range scan command. Then we just have to handle it, and then we're good. So let's go back to simulation, where we had kind of that junky implementation that doesn't do anything, and make it do something. So now we know when we get to handle long-range scan, this is definitely going to be a key in our map. As long as we've initialized the map properly and all that, and taken care of all that in the rest of our code, but excuse me. Yeah. So we can call our scan command here in our game state to update the state of the quadrant. Do chord. We're going to get to here. We're going to zoom in on the game state quadrant. We're zoom in on just that part of the game state, and we're going to set. Yeah, we're going to set the field in that quadrant. The quadrant scan state. And we're going to set it to a value. I think that's basically what I want to do. What's the problem with that? I meant Q. Did I mean Q.quadrant scan state? Maybe I did. Thanks, GHC. So helpful. Not quadrant. I mean, it did mean quadrant. Yes, you're right, GHC. That's true. Okay. And then we gotta put a value here for this hole. In fact, let's go to that function we wrote. We might even not even need to zoom in on it. Right, scan quadrant here. It takes the whole quadrant, returns the whole quadrant, and then does all this stuff for me. So we don't actually have to zoom into the quadrant there. We could just do the game state quadrant. That just needs a quadrant. We know how to do that with this, so we're going to we're going to turn this into no, we're going to do this kind of like percent equals, which is going to turn that hole into a function quadrant to quadrant. Super handy. All right, so type Tetris-wise, it's going to take a function of that shape. That's cool. We can make a function of that shape by applying scan quadrant to chord and slot it in there. And that might need a Q. Now that's happy, and then we just have to do pure performed. Now this is where we would put that validation logic, and we could check, okay, can the ship actually scan this quadrant, right? We could put that here. For now, we're just going to allow it, just so you could, yeah, you could scan it, whatever one you want. And we can implement that logic later in another baby step. All right, so we go here, we go LRS to 2. We should see that flip, that tile flip. 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, this one here. But it's not. What is happening? Oh, adjust is probably not right. We probably want to have something with insert or update. I think adjust will only work if the key is present, right? Add a specific key with the result provide function. So that's why it's not working. That's an easy fix. Update updates the value x at k if it is in the map. If it is nothing, the element is deleted. If it is just y, the key is bound to a new value y. So we want update here. And then we just need a slight modification to our const true here. Okay, now that should work. All right, a long range scan at 2-2. Ah, okay, almost. What am I missing? Should do it. It's not. Why not? Why not? Let's see. Okay. Okay, let us just do a little debug, teensy bit of debugging. I'm probably just missing something somewhere. Maybe it's not hooked up quite right. Okay, what state? We're going to import debug.trace. Qualified as debug, and after, so we get the command result, we call handle command. Yes, I will view the state here temporarily. then just do trace M here, just to show. Can we show all of it? I don't know if we have a full instance for game state. Show instance for game state? We do? Okay, cool. Yeah, wait for that to rebuild. We could probably just add some tests for it. That would probably be the smart way to do it, but let's go. No command. Interesting. Oh, LRS? There we go. It wasn't. There we go. Okay, so game state here. We should see yon map. Let me just pull this somewhere where it's going to be easy to read. Quadrant. There's our quadrant. That's the only real part we care about here. Quadrant. Scan state. Down here. Okay, so it's only showing 0, 0 true. So that means our handle command isn't modifying the state the way we expected, and that's the problem. Or our scan quadrant function isn't doing what we think it's doing. Could be the other thing. I think scan quadrant is probably doing what it should be. So let's just try it out. Scan quadrant with 2, 2 is what we're giving in as the command, or it should be. And we can pass in init quadrant with the ship 0, 0, say. And scan state 0, 0 true. Okay, so it isn't. Or at least update isn't doing what I thought it was supposed to be doing. Okay, update is probably, again, looking for the key, maybe? Okay, yes. So update wasn't the right one either. Ugh. It's got to be... I want to say modify. Alter. Alters the value at x at k or absence thereof. This is the one. Insert, update, delete, or update. Okay, update's only doing delete. Alter. That's my problem. I am forgetful of the map API sometimes. Alter. Okay, maybe A to maybe A. Still going to be const just true. Okay, let's reload that and try our little test again. There we go. Okay, now it's inserting it. Booyah. Everything else compiles, so we should be able to take out our debug code and rerun this and see it working. Okay, built, good, running, check. Let's hop over to the map, do our long-range scan, 202. There we go. So it flipped over, shows us that there's a space station. This now means something else. Now it means no ships. So we should put like a 0 there or something. But nevertheless, we're good. Mission accomplished. Let's commit this. Bang, bang. Add a long range scan handling. This is a primitive version that doesn't check any other game rules. Cool. All right. So that's our commits for tonight. We could probably squash these down into one. Yeah, I like it. I'm going to push it this way. Okay, so if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Nice to see you. I hope you come back next week. I do these streams once a week, usually on Tuesday evenings, about 10 after 8 or so in the Eastern time zone, standard time zone, whatever it shifts with daylight savings. I hear that happened recently. All the code, though, lives up here on GitHub. I'm Agent Ultra. It's nice to meet you. And I'm also Agent Ultra on the GitHubs. This is LambdaTrek. So all the code is here. If you want to star, branch, fork, read it, lurk, make fun of it, whatever, pick it apart, it's all good. You can also go to the link above my head. That is declarative.tv, I believe, and it is a pretty cool little website. There's other streamers who are streaming cool stuff in other languages like Haskell, and even more interesting, maybe. And if that piques your interest, there's a Discord server that is a link on that website there, where is a channel for this stream you can follow here between streams. You can follow that channel if you're on the Discords and hang out there. And if you're on YouTube as well, if you follow me there, then you can also go there and ask your questions and stuff that you didn't get a chance to ask on stream. What else? That's it. So let's go find someone to raid, I guess, and we're going to call it a night. So may all your monads be free, and may your types always check. Let's go find someone to raid here. Okay, my good friend, not really my friend, but I wish he was my friend, Strager is live at the moment. So we're going to go raid Strager. Bang. Let's go.
How much does
right.
a month cost for...
Cogeco's fiber-powered network is really...
Let's go. Bear. Bear. I think it worked. Hopefully it worked.
I could go through a tutoring agency or try to find individuals one-on-one. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who have rich parents, so funding won't be that big of an issue. Hey, Agent Ultra.
Yo.
Do you need a lot of money? I would prefer 5 figures. I'm not asking for too much.
Okay, I think it's gonna work this time. There we go.
Now, a lot of these tutors are
All
going
right,
to
I'm
be...
signing off. Have a good one, everybody.